In old age, focus on yourself and stay silent. Here comes a time in life when the noise outside no longer deserves the volume of our attention. That time is old age. Not a curse, but a crown. Not a closing, but a clarity. You see, when we are young, we rush to explain ourselves. We argue to be understood. We stretch ourselves thin, trying to prove we are worthy of love, of attention, of belonging. But in old age, no, my friends, in old age, we don't owe anyone an explanation. We owe ourselves peace. We don't chase people or opinions. We sit still and let the truth settle like dust after a storm. You've spent decades building, giving, fixing, healing, listening. Now it's time to turn that care inward. Pour into your own cup. Read what moves you. Walk where your spirit feels free. Rest, not just your body, but your soul. And yes, stay silent. Not because you have nothing to say, but because not everything is worth saying. Silence in old age is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is knowing when to speak and when to simply smile, nod, and let life move on. You are not here to fight every battle. You are here to feel the sun on your skin, hear your own breath, and remember that peace is a choice you make every single day. So when people come with their drama, their judgments, their noise, don't engage. Smile gently, withdraw kindly, and stay rooted in your truth. Because in old age, it's not about being seen. It's about seeing yourself clearly, kindly, and completely. Focus on yourself, stay silent, and watch how life starts speaking to you in the language of peace. There is a quiet power that comes with age, a shift in energy, a softening of urgency. You start to realize something profound. You no longer have to explain yourself to anyone. Let that sink in. You no longer have to prove your worth, your value, your intentions, or your choices. You don't need to justify why you didn't call back, why you walked away from certain people, or why you finally chose you. Because the truth is, for most of your life, you may have been taught directly or silently that being good meant being available, that being loving meant always saying yes, that being respected meant being seen. But now, in this sacred season of life, you are learning something deeper. You are learning that peace is more valuable than praise, that stillness is more powerful than validation, and that being okay with yourself matters more than being liked by others. We live in a world obsessed with approval. We post, we share, we explain, and we overextend, hoping someone, somewhere, will say, "You're doing great." But my friend, what if you could say that to yourself? What if your heart could whisper, "I am proud of you," and that alone was enough? In old age, you are allowed, no, invited, to step back from the spotlight of others' expectations. You're no longer auditioning for acceptance. You've earned your place. And more importantly, you've earned your peace. Now, let me be clear. This doesn't mean you stop loving people. It doesn't mean you isolate or become cold. It means you stop chasing their validation as if your peace depends on it. It means you release the invisible weight of trying to be understood all the time. Because let's face it, not everyone will get you. Not everyone can. And that's okay. Sometimes people don't understand your silence, your boundaries, your detachment from the noise. That's not your problem to solve. That's your peace to protect. You see, when you prioritize inner peace, something magical happens. Your mind quiets down. You stop replaying conversations, stop writing imaginary comebacks in your head, stop wondering what they meant or how you looked. You begin to rest in your truth, in your values, in your presence. There's a saying, don't light yourself on fire to keep others warm. And in old age, it finally clicks. You've done enough. You've given enough. Now it's time to preserve your flame. For you, let the younger ones hustle for validation. Let them learn. Your job now is not to perform, it's to be, to breathe, to observe, to enjoy the sunset without needing to post it, to make a decision and not explain it, to say no without a paragraph. This is not selfishness. It is self-return. You are returning to yourself, your needs, your rhythm. And that return is sacred. There will be people who misunderstand your peace as distance, who call your silence cold, who see your boundaries as rejection. But the truth is, when you stop needing approval, you start living authentically. You start dressing for comfort, not for compliments. You start speaking only when it adds value, not when it's expected. You begin choosing peace over performance, and that, my dear, is liberation. So if you find yourself in the later years of life wondering whether you should have done more to please others, pause. Ask yourself instead, am I at peace with who I am now? That's the question that matters. That's the question that holds the real weight. Let go of the idea that peace is something you have to earn. Peace is not a reward for being agreeable. Peace is your birthright. And in your older years, it becomes your daily choice. So when someone tries to pull you back into arguments, into guilt, into roles that no longer fit, smile gently, wish them well, and return to your center. Let the world run its noisy race. You've crossed many finish lines. You've spoken when it mattered. You've shown up when it counted. Now, let your silence speak for you. Let your peace do the talking. And when you wake up each morning, ask yourself, what can I do today to protect my peace? That is your real work now. Not approval, not applause, just peace. You show up for your children when they cry in the night and don't know how to say why. You show up for your partner when the weight of the world feels like too much for two hands to hold. You show up for your parents when time starts to fold their bones and memory slips quietly out the back door. You show up for neighbors, for friends, for colleagues, for birthdays, for emergencies, for last-minute favors. And somewhere along the way, you forget to show up for yourself. You forget that you too are a person who needs care, that your back gets tired not just from lifting, but from carrying emotions you never named, that your silence has sometimes been mistaken for strength when really it was just exhaustion, that you've been pouring from a cup that never quite gets filled back up, that age has a way of revealing truth that youth simply doesn't have time for. And here's one of them. There comes a time, beautiful, necessary, and non-negotiable, when you must begin to turn that care inward. Not because you're selfish, not because you've stopped loving others, but because love without balance becomes burden. And you weren't put on this earth to carry everyone while slowly losing yourself. So now finally you get to ask, what does my body need today? What does my spirit crave? Not in a loud, flashy way, but in the quiet, honest way of someone who has paid their dues and is ready to return home to themselves. It might be something as small as sitting by the window with a warm cup of tea and no one asking you for anything. It might be walking barefoot in the garden, because it reminds you that you're still connected to something deeper than routine. It might be saying no to that gathering, to that phone call, to that obligation you used to fulfill out of guilt, not joy. It might be creating again, picking up a brush, a pen, a recipe, a song. Not because you want to impress anyone, but because you've remembered that joy isn't a reward, it's a right. And you deserve to feel it, even now, especially now. You've spent decades managing crises and calendars, smoothing tension, softening your voice, so others could feel comfortable. But now, you have permission to speak to yourself in full volume, to say, I matter, I'm still here, and I still want things. Soft things, quiet things, real things. No more waiting for others to notice you're tired. You notice and you rest. No more waiting to be asked how you feel. You ask yourself. And you answer honestly, even if the answer is, I don't know. Even that deserves tenderness. The body you've carried through every season, every childbirth, every heartbreak, every long day on your feet, it deserves your gentleness now. Feed it what makes it feel alive. Move it in ways that feel like gratitude, not punishment. Let it stretch slowly in the morning. Let it sit still when it asks. This is not laziness. This is honorio. And your mind, oh, your beautiful, weathered mind, the one that has planned and solved and remembered 1,000 tiny details for other people. Let it rest, too. Let it wander. Let it forget what doesn't matter anymore. Let it release the old stories that no longer serve you. You're not obligated to hold on to every scar just because it once taught you something. You are allowed to be new, even now. And then there's your spirit, the quiet part of you that you silence to stay polite, to be productive, to be accepted. That part of you is rising again. It's asking you to return to joy, to slowness, to awe, to the small things that once made you feel human. Look at the sky more. Smell the fruit before you eat it. Light a candle not because someone's visiting, but because you're finally learning how to visit yourself. Speak kindly to the mirror. Forgive the version of you that didn't know how to say enough. She tried. She loved the best she could. And now it's your turn. You're not being dramatic for wanting rest. You're not being unrealistic for wanting more quiet. You're not being difficult for needing space. You're just finally being honest. And honesty is the beginning of healing. So turn care inward. Gently, slowly, daily. And watch what happens when the woman who has held everyone else finally begins to hold herself. There was a time when you felt compelled to speak, to defend yourself, to correct the lie, to explain the part they misunderstood. You rehearsed conversations in your head, carefully choosing words that would finally make someone see your side, understand your pain, or admit they were wrong. But somewhere along the way, you began to understand something deeper, something quieter. You began to realize that not everything deserves your voice. Silence is not weakness. It's not surrender. It's not retreat. It is the sacred pause between knowing and reacting. It is the moment you choose peace over pride, presence over proving. You learn with time and with age that speaking is not always the wise thing, that just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can offer is your silence, not out of fear, but out of self-respect. You don't owe everyone a response. Not every insult deserves your energy. Not every question is worth answering. Not every opinion needs your counterpoint. There is strength in restraint. There is wisdom in stillness. Because silence speaks in ways noise never can. It says, I'm not available for chaos today. I'm not entertaining unnecessary tension. I'm not explaining myself to those who are committed to misunderstanding me. It says, I have nothing to prove to you. I am no longer built for emotional tug-of-wars. I have reached a place in life where my peace matters more than being right. There is something dignified about choosing to stay quiet in a world that constantly demands your reaction, to let someone say what they need to say and respond only with a nod, a breath, or a simple turning away. Not because you didn't hear them, not because you didn't have a reply, but because your spirit told you, this is not yours to carry. You become selective, not just with your words, but with your presence. You no longer engage in conversations that drain you. You no longer defend your choices to people who never cared to understand your path. You no longer break your own peace just to make someone else feel comfortable. And when someone tries to provoke you, when they poke at old wounds or attempt to pull you back into roles you've outgrown, you simply smile and stay silent because you know who you are now. And people who know who they are don't need to shout about it. Silence becomes your shield, your boundary, your calm. It keeps you from reacting impulsively, from saying things that create more harm than healing. It gives you space to feel, to think, to observe without being pulled into the mess. It allows you to listen not just to others, but to yourself. In silence, you start hearing the things your heart has been trying to tell you all along. You reconnect with your own voice, the one not shaped by anger or ego, but by truth. And that voice is often quiet, patient, and steady. You no longer rush to fix things that aren't yours to fix. You don't interrupt someone's judgment with explanations that will fall on deaf ears anyway. You learn the art of letting people be wrong about you. Let them talk. Let them assume. You don't have to set every record straight. Your peace is not a public debate. And in that quiet, something beautiful happens. You begin to conserve energy. The kind of energy you used to spend clarifying, defending, arguing. You redirect it toward healing, toward reflection, toward creation. You use that energy to build yourself, to tend to the parts of you that were overlooked when you were too busy reacting to everything outside. Silence teaches you timing. It teaches you patience. It teaches you that wisdom is not always loud, and that the most mature response is sometimes no response at all. Not because you don't care, but because you care deeply about protecting what you've built inside. There are people who will try to interpret your silence as indifference. Let them. There are people who will say you've changed. Let them. You have changed. You've grown into someone who doesn't throw words around like weapons, who doesn't argue for sport, who doesn't perform pain for an audience that claps for conflict. Silence is not the absence of power. It is the presence of control. It is the discipline to walk away, to pause, to choose which fires are worth putting out, and which ones will burn themselves out without you. You have learned how to sit with your emotions before letting them speak for you. You've learned how to protect your peace like a sacred room. Only certain voices, only certain energies allowed inside. And it's not easy. It takes strength to bite your tongue when your ego is screaming. It takes maturity to sit with the discomfort of being misunderstood. But with time, it gets easier. And with practice, it becomes natural. You're not silent because you're weak. You're silent because you finally understood that wisdom doesn't shout. It listens, it watches, and it waits for the right moment, if it ever comes at all. There is a kind of freedom that only comes with time, the kind that arrives quietly, not with fanfare, but with deep understanding. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. It lives in your bones. And it tells you something simple, something powerful. Not everything is worth your energy. There was a time when every disagreement felt like a hill you had to climb. Every misunderstanding felt like a fire you had to put out. You spoke up not because you wanted to, but because you felt you had to. You had to defend your intentions. You had to make people see your side. You had to prove you were right, good, fair, or honest. But now you know better. You know that every battle comes with a cost, and some costs are simply too high. Your peace, your energy, your sleep, your spirit. These are not things you're willing to trade just to win an argument, just to prove a point, just to be right. You don't need to enter the ring every time someone throws a glove at your feet. You don't need to pick up every insult, every challenge, every invitation to fight, because here's the truth. Many people aren't looking for resolution. They're looking for reaction. And you've outgrown the need to react. You've outgrown the belief that silence is defeat. You've outgrown the belief that walking away means you lost. No. Now you understand that walking away is often the highest form of power. It says, I know what I'm worth, and this is beneath it. You've earned the right to choose your battles. And sometimes you choose none at all. You stop arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop explaining yourself to people who twist your words into weapons. You stop exhausting yourself in circles that go nowhere with people who aren't listening to understand, but to reply. That kind of engagement is a younger person's game, fueled by ego, fear, and the desperate need to be seen. But age teaches you something more valuable than being seen. It teaches you how to see yourself clearly enough that no one else's opinion holds power over you. You begin to recognize that drama has a scent. You can smell it when it walks into the room. You can feel it in the tone of a message, the weight of a conversation, the shift in someone's energy. And you don't lean in anymore. You don't get curious. You don't try to solve it. You simply step back, breathe, and let it pass without involving yourself. Because you've learned that peace is not passive. Peace is a choice. It is deliberate. It is hard-won, and it is yours to protect. There will always be people who try to draw you into their chaos. People who thrive on conflict, who need a villain, who need someone to argue with so they can avoid arguing with themselves. Don't let them choose you. Your silence is not surrender. It's a boundary. Your distance is not coldness. It's clarity. You're not ignoring people. You're prioritizing your mental and emotional health. You're choosing peace over provocation, stillness over struggle. You no longer owe every situation your reaction. You no longer feel guilty for letting people be wrong about you. You no longer chase closure in conversations that only leave you more unsettled. You've learned that many battles are trapped. They dress up like justice, but deliver exhaustion. They disguise themselves as necessary when all they really do is drain your joy. And joy is something you now guard like a sacred light. You've learned how to let people talk without needing to respond. You've learned how to hear criticism and say nothing. Not because it doesn't sting, but because it doesn't deserve space in your mind. You've learned how to disappoint people gracefully, to let someone think you're the problem without needing to convince them otherwise. Because if someone can't see your heart by now, they never will. And that's no longer your responsibility. Now you speak when it matters, not when it's expected. You choose clarity over chaos, calm over control. You save your voice for places where it can be heard without distortion, without resistance, where it matters. And when no such place exists, you stay silent. You go for a walk, you write it down, you pray, you cry. But you do not fight. Because your spirit has learned the difference between battles that lead to peace and battles that lead to pieces. It took years to learn that not everything broken needs your fixing. Not everyone angry needs your soothing. Not every mess belongs to you. And now that you've learned it, you're free to choose your battles. Or choose none at all. There comes a moment in life, not marked by age, but by experience, where you stop looking outward to define who you are, where the noise of the world fades just enough for you to hear the sound of your own truth. And in that moment, something sacred begins, the journey of seeing yourself clearly and kindly. For so long, you were shaped by expectations. What people thought you should be, how you should act, what success should look like, how love should feel, when to speak, when to stay quiet. You carried labels: daughter, mother, partner, worker, helper, peacemaker. And in wearing all those roles, you often forgot to ask, who am I? When no one is looking. Now in this season of life, you finally have the chance to ask, to sit with yourself, not the version that's been performing, surviving, pleasing, but the real you, the woman underneath it all, the one who's been waiting patiently to be noticed, not by others, but by you. Seeing yourself clearly means facing your own reflection without the filters of judgment or comparison. It means no longer hiding your softness or your strength. It means acknowledging the ways you've grown and also the ways you're still growing. It means holding the truth of your life, not with shame, but with grace. You are not a sum of your mistakes. You are not a list of regrets. You are not a story someone else told about you. You are your resilience. You are the wisdom you earned through heartbreak and healing. You are the quiet strength that got you through days you thought would break you. You are the laughter that returns when you thought it never would. And yes, there are things you wish you'd done differently, words you wish you'd said or hadn't, roads you didn't take. But when you see yourself kindly, you stop using your past as a weapon against yourself. You begin to understand that woman did the best she could with what she knew. And even when she stumbled, she got back up again and again. And she deserves your compassion, not your criticism. This is not the time in life to seek validation from others. You've done that. You spend years trying to be good enough, smart enough, kind enough, quiet enough, strong enough. You've looked for approval in eyes that didn't know how to give it, but now you get to give it to yourself. You get to say, I am enough. Not because you've done everything right, but because you've shown up day after day, heart open, soul tired, and still loving. That is more than enough. You no longer need the world to see you. What brings you peace? What makes you come alive? What kind of silence feeds you? What kind of laughter heals you? These are the questions you ask now. Because this stage of life is not about being everything to everyone. It's about being whole with yourself. Self-awareness is a quiet revolution. It's not flashy. It doesn't seek applause. It's in the way you begin to notice your own patterns, the way you soften when you used to harden, the way you pause before reacting, the way you learn to say, this is mine, or this is not. It's in the way you forgive yourself, not just once, but daily, sometimes moment by moment. And when you see yourself clearly, you stop trying to shrink to fit spaces you've outgrown. You no longer dim your light for those who can't handle your brightness. You don't apologize for your boundaries, your dreams, your silence, your solitude. You recognize that your life is yours and you don't owe it to anyone to make it palatable. Kindness toward yourself becomes a daily practice. It's in how you talk to yourself when no one else is around. It's in the gentleness with which you greet the morning, the patience you offer your body, the softness in how you recall your own journey. It's in saying, I'm proud of who I'm becoming, even if no one else says it first. And there will still be days when doubt visits. Days when you wonder if you've done enough, been enough, mattered enough. Let it visit, but don't let it stay. Return to yourself. Sit with the version of you that's endured so much and still believes in the good. That's still learning, still dreaming, still loving. You are not here to prove yourself anymore. You are here to know yourself, to walk in the truth of who you are, to hold your own gaze without looking away, to whisper, I see you, and mean it. Because in the end, the most profound connection you'll ever have is not with the world, but with the soul that lives quietly inside you. So here we are, at this place in life where the noise quiets, the pace slows, and the mirror becomes gentler. And in this stillness, you realize old age isn't a decline, it's a return to yourself, to the parts of you that were always there, waiting beneath the roles, the noise, the expectations. Now is the time to protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. To walk away from battles that lead nowhere, to speak only when it adds truth or love, and to stay silent when silence honors your strength. Now is the time to care for yourself, not as a reward, but as a birthright. You have earned this softness, this space, this joy. You have earned the right to rest in your own presence without guilt, to look at yourself not with criticism, but with awe. And most of all, now is the time to stop needing to be seen by the world, because you finally see yourself clearly, kindly, powerfully. This is not the end. This is the blooming of a deeper beginning. The moment where you live not for others, not for proving, but for you. Quietly, boldly, peacefully. And that, my friend, is freedom.